Welcome to another episode. As you've probably seen from the title of this video, in this episode I'm building a welding trolley. Now I do own a welding trolley, however over the years I've upgraded from a DC TIG to a larger AC/DC machine which no longer fits. Additionally, my MIG never fitted my previous welding trolley and the previous one was only ever big enough to hold a single gas bowl. In an attempt to free up some space in my already very cramped single car garage, I decided to get a bigger welding trolley to address all of these problems. After having no success in finding something that was suitable for my needs and at a price that I could afford, I did the usual thing and designed one myself. I created a 3D model in SolidWorks and then created a 2D drawing from that, complete with cut list. We're at a secret location here where my steel got delivered. We've got drawing with cut list, so there's nothing else for it but to get this lot all cut up. Cue the time lapse. Now that I've got the parts cut out, we can start welding it together. And it seems a logical place to start is with the base. Now I've cleared my bench of the toolbox and even the bench vise to give me some room to work. I've got everything clamped down and in position, so I'm going to go ahead and start tack welding this together, repeatedly checking my measurements all the way through to ensure that it's square. Now if you ever want to make sure that something's square, all you need to do is measure the diagonals. Anything that's square should basically be the same. It's important to get things as square as possible because a degree out here, a metre up in the air when you add a new piece on, may mean you're out a considerable amount and not have enough material to get things to go together. My initial measurement on this is within about 2 mil, which is pretty decent. So hopefully a little gentle tap with a mallet and we should get this square enough and then we can fully burn it together. With the frame squared up, I did as I said and fully welded it together. Now that we have the outer frame of the base all welded together, the next two parts to go in are these. Now these are the bits that separate the front half from where the TIG welder will sit and the rear half from where the gas balls will go. To get these to fit, the ends need to be notched, so that's what we're going to do next. The first step was to mark the position of where the bars had to go on the base frame. This would allow me to put them in position and mark where the notches needed to go. With the bar in place and aligned with the marks on the base frame, I could then mark the position of the notches. I used another piece of the same angle iron to mark the depth of the notch. With the notches marked, I temporarily put the vise back on the bench and cut them out. Just run into a slight problem. Because of these welds, I can't put this frame down flat on a bench, and I kind of need to do that to line up that piece. Now normally I don't like grinding welds back unless I absolutely have to, if, for example, it's on bodywork. However, these are actually also going to get in the way of the caster wheels that are going to get bolted to it. So I'm going to go ahead now and grind these flush. I first of all hit the weld with a grinding disc to take the majority of it off. Before following it up with a flat disc to finish them off. With the welds in the corners ground down, I marked the position for where the notch bars had to go on the underside of the base frame and then prepped the surfaces for welding. With everything prepped, I aligned the notch bar and then began tack welding it in place. With one bar tack welded in, now all we need to do is fit the second. And with the magic of editing, I got the second bar prepped and proceeded to clamp it in place with as many clamps as possible, before also tack welding it in place. the last two bars tack welded in place, it was then just a matter of fully welding it all together to complete the base section of the welding trolley. As well as welding around the ends, I also made some marks equispaced on both the top and the bottom of where the two notch bars marked. This is where I welded the two of them together. Now I've got the middle frame tack welded together, I'm going to move on to the top one and do the same before I fully weld the pair of them. For some reason the footage of me putting the middle frame together became corrupted, so I'm unable to show you that. So instead I will just have to show you me assembling the top frame, which is pretty much the same. I think this scene is an example of the old joke, how many clamps do you need to clamp something together? Answer, always one more than you've got. As you can see, the saying of measure twice, cut once also applies when you're welding stuff together. As mentioned before, I repeatedly check my measurements, as being 1mm out here can have much bigger repercussions later down the line when you add more parts. With everything checked, double checked and clamped down, I can finally tack it all together. With a frame tack welded together, I once again checked my measurements before I fully welded it together, and the middle frame that I had tack welded together earlier. With the three frames all welded up, you might think the next step is to add the uprights and join them all together. However, before I do that, I'm going to take the chance now to drill all the necessary holes in them. Now, a welding cart's not a lot of use if it's not mobile, so obviously to do that we need to add some wheels. I wonder where I can get them from. Now, I am sure that there are some of you that are thinking stealing the wheels off my existing trolley is a waste and I should have just gone and bought some new ones. Trust me, it isn't. Considering the condition and size of my old welding trolley, if I had sold it complete, I was unlikely to recoup enough money to actually buy new wheels, so it was more economical just to nick them off my old one. I lost a ferrule for a compression fitting, must be about 8 months ago. I have just found it in the corner of my welding trolley. Good news is I didn't throw that fitting out, so now I've actually got a working, usable fitting. As well as the wheels, I also decided to use parts of the handle, 2 hooks off the sides that were useful for hanging earth leads on, etc., and most of the nuts and bolts. With a bench full of parts, I can move on to marking the position of all the holes required. Now, I did consider being lazy and just welding the caster wheels onto the base frame, but I decided to do it properly and bolt the wheels on instead. The angle iron I used to make up the frame of the welding trolley is 30 by 30 by 3mm, so it's thick enough to drill a tap. The wheels were held onto the previous trolley using M5 fasteners, so this meant that I needed to drill 4.2mm holes in order to tap the threads I needed. Two holes drilled and tapped for each wheel, I could go ahead and bolt the wheels on and then mark the position of the rest of the holes. I did this because while the wheels have slotted holes and so can deal with some minor misalignment, in my experience if you mark and drill them all in one go, you inevitably end up with one hole that doesn't quite line up. Doing it this way gives you a chance to correct the position of the rest of the bolt holes.
I'm going to leave fitting the rear wheels to later because that involves welding the tube across here, and if I do that now, that means unfortunately this will no longer sit flat on my bench. So, next up, more drilling.
As mentioned, my previous welding trolley had a hook on each side, so I replicated the bolt holes for these onto the uprights. The hooks were bolted on using the same M5 fasteners that the wheels were bolted on with, so once again the holes were drilled at 4.2mm and then tapped. The last set of holes that needed to be drilled were for the handle. In order to use the handle off my old welding trolley, I needed to make it wider. The best way to make sure that it would fit after being modified was to clamp it to the sides of the upper section of the new welding trolley while it was being welded. In order to get it to sit correctly, I had to grind the welds back on the corners. However, this needed to be done anyway to fit the uprights, so now was as good a time as any to do it. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the top frame to fit under my drilling machine side on, so these holes had to be drilled using a power drill.
As you can see, this handle is not wide enough for this trolley. However, that's not a surprise to me, as I know that this trolley that I've designed is wider than my previous one. Don't worry though, I do have a plan.
The plan to widen a handle involved me hacksawing it into two and welding an extension piece in the middle. In hindsight, if I was to make another one of these welding trolleys, I would design my own handle and just build it from scratch, as it probably would have been less effort in the long run. With the extension piece cut, I prep the ends of the existing handle by grinding the paint off, ready to weld it. As the handle would need to be smooth, I decided to TIG weld it. I did this as less filler material would be used in the weld, and therefore less work would have to be done afterwards grinding the handle smooth. Well, this episode is long enough, so I'm going to end it here. Come back next time for part 2 and the completion of the welding trolley. If you've enjoyed this episode, then please hit that like button and share, and if you want to get notifications or when future episodes are released, then please subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell. The next episode is well underway in production, so hopefully there won't be too long of a wait for it. In the meantime, you can check out some of my other videos, a link should be on screen now. Once again, thanks for watching.